Hey, my name's Ray, and I got a question that's part story, the question to follow. This morning, I was getting off shift, and somebody asked, hey, what are you guys doing today? We were having coffee around the table. And I said, I'm going down to the FIRExTalk conference, Snodgrass's thing. And there were a couple of extremely snarky comments around the table with the conception that this type of stuff is KoolAid drinking. And finished drinking my coffee, and I went outside. I was going to go work out, and they said, I was going over in my head all these millions of different responses that I could have said that would have just been like real zingers. But I didn't. I couldn't think of anything on the spot. And basically my question is to you is, what would your response be to classifying this type of stuff as, incapable of independent thought, KoolAid drinking, sheep herding, whatever you want to say? I'm just curious, how do we get past that? What do you say? What would you say?
I'll catch that real quick. You know what I would say? I would say we're the Renaissance. When you look around, when you watch the videos that Mike has so far, when you look at the people that are in this room, when you listen to the reading of what Andy Frederick said, we're the Renaissance. We're the movers and shakers that are taking the fire service back and putting the fire back in fire service, putting the service back in fire service. So many people have stagnated. I would argue that they're drinking the Kool-Aid. The folks that say we don't do fires anymore, the folks that say we know everything we need to know, the folks that would say we've had rigs designed like this for 40 years, I'm sure Dennis could attest to it with his contracting. I'm sure he sees departments where folks say, we've used the same hosebed layout for 40 years. What are you going to teach me that's going to make it work any better? This is coming and listening to all sorts of different people with different ideas, different experiences, different opinions is going to make us better. We get better by coming to this, not worse. So tell them we're the revolution, jump on board, we have cookies.
First of all, I want to tell you, good job not firing back. That's the last thing you want to do. What's going to happen is you're going to get better. And your skills and how much better you perform is going to be the loudest voice you can have. One thing you can do to me is I always love nicely backing people into a corner. It's not threatening, but why don't you ask them if they'll put on some training? See what they do. Chances are they'll backpedal.
Yeah, as I was traveling through LAX this morning, I saw this rather fit-looking individual walking onto the plane ahead of me, and they were wearing a shirt that had a motto from the French Foreign Legion on it. I don't know if they were Legionnaire or just happened to be wearing this shirt. But what the back of the shirt said was actions or deeds, not words. And I think that's the answer to that criticism. I heard that for most of the early years in my career because I was going to classes a lot and doing a lot of those things, and unfortunately I didn't have the sage advice, keep your mouth shut, just show them by deeds. But reflecting back on that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that experience thing, but I think you just lead by your actions, and nothing more needs to be said.
I've got it. We all get that. Everybody that's been sitting up here and everybody in this room gets that. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. And like, we said earlier, the people that aren't on board are the ones that are drinking the Kool-Aid. And, when those haters come out, just walk right past them. Because your performance is what's going to, speak volumes. Those people that act that way are going to be the ones turning to you going, what do we do in this situation? And you can sleep, you can rest your head on that pillow at night feeling better, knowing that you prepared yourself as best you possibly could. But if you're like any of us sitting in this room, you don't sleep very well because you're constantly what-ifing things and you're always worried about shit. And that's what makes you better. Can I say shit?
I think it was good you didn't fire back right then, and you have some time to think about it. I think one thing the fire service does very poorly is to communicate. If you look at the police police force of America. It's been paid and professional for much longer, and they ultimately have a national boss, the Attorney General. And when they have a major incident like Columbine High or single shooter, they get together, and it doesn't matter whether you're the Andy Griffith and you're running the Mayberry Police Department or you're LAPD. If you have a single shooter, basically the plan is now the same universally across the United States in single shooters. They came together and came up with a plan. The fire services are fiefdoms. You got the LA fiefdom, you got San Francisco, Oakland, Seattle, Portland, because we're a volunteer origin, and we learned and we're insulated. And there's a fancy word, cognitive bias. If you don't step outside your organization, you can't capture your mistakes because you've built up a cognitive bias, because you're recording successes that in other agencies maybe the fire would have gone out much quicker, the same fire in two different agencies, right? So, I start my PowerPoint presentation a lot of times with a picture of the Challenger disaster, and I say, complacency, not listening to subject matter experts. When the Challenger exploded, the engineer that designed the O-rings knew it was going to occur, and he spoke to the supervisors and recommended not to launch, and he was disregarded. So you have to reach outside your agency, and I think the fire service, unfortunately, does a poor job of doing that, and a poor job of understanding the history of some of the evolutions. One fire department up here does a lot of Y and manifold operations, and I'm like, I was confused. I was hired in, I look at their hose stuff, and I'm like, this makes no sense to me. It is so complex and so slow. What is going on here in some major fire department? And so I called up Dave Furnell, and he's currently a commissioner of the Detroit Fire Department. He wrote a fire stream management handbook back in the 90s. I said, hey, Dave, when you travel around the country, did you ever make it up to the Pacific Northwest? He said, yes. I said, what's going on with this fire department up here? They do all these crazy forward stretch Ys and manifold operations. He's like, they used to have a lot of wooden docks, and the fire engines couldn't go out on the wooden docks because of the weight of the fire engines, and the wooden docks would burn up, so they have to do all these extended stretches. I'm like, that makes perfect sense. Now I know why this high-rise has a manifold in its lobby, So, you have to look out, because the answer, your local problem, the answer might be vetted and thoroughly understood by someone that's on the other side of the country. So, I know in Oakland it took a line of duty death, so.
So just a little bit of a different take on this. How come this room isn't packed, right? I mean, there's less people in here this year than there was last year. I think every single one of us is at fault for that, quite honestly. Our industry a lot of times seems to be leaning towards tactical mediocrity and task level mediocrity. Our job is to go out and advocate what is best for our industry. And getting together like this is what's best for our industry. And you're absolutely right, Mark. The guys and gals that are back home that are taking shots from the recliner at every one of us that are sitting in this room are the problem. But what are we doing about it? We talked earlier about, what is the legacy where we are going to leave? What is the fingerprint that we're going to leave on our industry and our profession? It's all of our jobs to go back and make sure that we sell this, to market this. I hear from our folks every once in a while, well, if the department's not going to provide it for me, or I can't do it on duty, then I'm not going to do it. And shame on us as an industry. We talk up the big talk, that we're all that, and the bottom line is a lot of us aren't. I know I'm not by any stretch of the imagination. So our job's to go back and make sure that we push our folks to achieve success, to sharpen their edge, that we're never going to have mastery of this skill set, this craft, and that vocation that we're all seeking to be here for, which, bottom line is for us, it needs to be highly reinforced with our fellow firefighters and our organizations.
So I'm going to take you on a little bit more personally here, because I completely understand what you're what you're saying. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I look like I'm about 15 years old, so I'm constantly getting, yeah. So I'm constantly getting flack if people know I'm going to a class or they see me doing knee bundles in the bay, personal drill time to get better. Why are you doing that? Firing off. I promise you, you continue to do what you're doing, you're going to surpass them, and you're going to have your moment to shine on the fire ground, or a conversation where they're trying to find an answer to a question. You are going to have your opportunity to where, I don't recommend firing back at them. That just, you know as well as I do, the fire service is full of type A personalities. Everyone's got to be right, so that'll just go circles. But your opportunity to come where you're going to be much more crafty, and they're going to say, wow, that guy is really efficient. Where did he learn that? And they're going to ask you, where'd you pick up that answer, or how'd you find that skill? And when you give them the answer of how you got there, I promise you they're probably going to follow suit and say, oh, maybe Aaron Fields isn't such a crazy a-hole. We should probably go take his class, because this guy can deploy a pre-connect and have water charged in 20 seconds versus me, who takes a minute. So I would continue to lead by example, and never, you don't want to get into an endless argument with those people, but people will watch. It's going to be a slow process, and just like Mark was talking about, his 4-year guy is now implementing a lot of fire attack change, hose loads, all that stuff. It obviously started with that one 4-year guy and probably progressed to more people. So it's a slow process, but the important thing is to not give up on it and not let those people get you down, and just continue to perform at a much better rate than anyone else, because you're out there learning constantly on your day. You're here on your day off, so that already says a lot.
I'll add one thing, kind of tacking on what actually Mark said, and I know I'm going to say later. You want a skill? Learn how to ask good questions. Just like I think I know who your chief might be from San Jose, but I'm not sure, who's very good at asking questions to get you to think about it. That's a great idea. You don't have to get the zinger. Just ask them questions and see what they answer. Maybe they'll go home and think about it.
If I could just make one more point along those lines, some of the things that made me think about listening to all these smart guys talk. Your passion is your thing, and you have to own it, and it's got to be yours, and you can't force it on other people. You have to celebrate how excited you are about the job. But again, it kind of gets back to the point I was talking about, in my presentation. It's like, we're so excited about the job that we are here on our days off and everything. We want to strangle people because we don't, why don't you love this as much as I do? And it's all about taking that fire that you have and finding a way to effectively communicate it to everybody, and sharing what you love about the job, and not getting pissed off and not letting those people get you down. So, I've seen it too many times in people, and I saw it in myself, where I had to actually alter the way that I approach people. Because I think we all go through that phase where it's like, this is a really dangerous job, why don't you take it as seriously as I do? We could die at any time. All that stuff. And people they get tired of it. And so you have to find a way to communicate it in a way that's acceptable and palatable to those people that just aren't as into the job as you are. And it's as simple as saying, hey, I picked this up in a class, let me show you how to make your life easier. Rather than going, hey, you're a jerk because you don't go to as many classes as I do. And that's, I used to try to browbeat people with stuff, and it just doesn't work. And I think that comes with age and finding out how to communicate with people when you get old like me. That's it.
When you find yourself in harm's way, ergonomics is about more than just comfort. It is imperative to getting your job done safely. That's why we've designed the MSA G1 SCBA with critical ergonomic principles in mind. To begin, we've removed all electronics from the facepiece, stripping away excess bulk and weight. This not only makes the facepiece more comfortable to wear, but it also reduces snag hazards, provides an increased field of view, and an improved range of motion. In addition, an open port design allows you to breathe easier and communicate more clearly when off air. We have also modified the G1's backplate. By repositioning electronics and pneumatics content, we were able to lower the center of gravity, increasing stability, reducing snag hazards, and improving your overall ability to pivot and flex, providing you with a greater range of motion. We have also created a design that is symmetrical, maximizing balance and stability. We've consulted with many of you about the G1 harness, and we've made some improvements there, like upgrading our shoulder straps. To prevent them from moving out of position, we have strategically placed friction pads so that once the SCBA has been donned, the shoulder straps will remain in place. In addition, we've also increased the width of our shoulder straps to expand the area of contact and reduce pressure points on your shoulders. Another key feature is our swiveling lumbar pad. Because of its design, the G1 moves with you and keeps the weight properly positioned so that you can maneuver more effortlessly. Beyond the swiveling functionality, there is also an optional adjustable lumbar pad mechanism. With 3 different positions, the adjustable lumbar pad can accommodate varying torso lengths. This allows the G1 to be customized to each user, ensuring the weight is properly distributed across the hips and shoulders, and making sure the SCBA stays in place while you are working. Ultimately, the MSA G1's unique ergonomic design is not solely about enhanced mechanisms and maximized functionality. It's about how all of those things work together to help you get your job done. Because when you go in, we go in with you. The G1 SCBA. Contact your local sales manager to learn more.